Do you ever feel like nothing is working? Like you look around in your finances, you look at your life, and it just feels like it's not working. And many times, maybe people are looking at you and they are like, you have hit all the stars, like you've done all the things, you should be good. But you just have this constant thing of it's not working. There is lack. It is not growing. It is not working. And that is affecting you. This episode is for you. I'm Dr. Latifat. I'm a physician. I'm a GI doctor and also the founder of Moneyfitmd platform, which is 100% committed to helping women physicians stop worrying about money, ditch all the financial struggles, live our best life, and stop burning out. Yes, I believe that money is a tool for good. I believe that money is a gift that we have been given so that we can create impact in the world. We can enjoy the relationships we have. And my job is to teach y'all. I want y'all to get all the monies. And by the way, I wrote this book, Done with Broke. It's right there in the corner. Right. Right there. Done with Broke. It's available on Amazon. You can go get a copy. It is potentially going to change the way you do money, period. It is simple, easy to read, pleasurable is what I've been told, and it is transformative. Money does not have to be boring. It doesn't have to make you feel like poking yourself with a toothpick in your eye. None of that. Money can be simple. It can be done effectively, and it can be ridiculously successful. This episode is something that I came up with as a result of something that I'm seeing so much of. And it's based on a fallacy and a wrong assumption that we have. Many times, and you'll see how that this you'll get more, I will clarify more of this as I go on. So you may see someone that looks like they're doing well. They have a lot of money. And you're like, but why do they keep doing money? Why do they keep investing? Don't they have enough? Right. And in fact, if you spend 5 seconds Googling or looking on Facebook and you see a Facebook ad, I chuckle when I see those ads. And, it's like someone that is maybe teaching a real estate course or a conference or like teaching people how to make money or all that stuff. And you will almost certainly see somebody in the comment that goes, if this was making you so much money, then why are you trying to charge people to teach them? And it's because they don't have understanding. They lack wisdom. They don't have understanding. That is why there's so much that goes into the process of paying, receiving, exchanging money that is beyond what I want to talk about in this episode. But the thing I want to say is many times we define enough based on how we've been taught and conditioned. We assume that when I have enough, it means that I'm going to stop looking. I'm going to stop trying. I'm going to stop working. I'm going to stop investing, which is a fallacy. It's based on a lack of understanding. If you understand the value of work, you will know that there is no amount of money that can replace the act of working. Because act of working is actually not a curse. Act of working is actually a blessing. And for those of you guys that maybe read the Bible or you've heard stories about the Bible, if you look at Adam and Eve, let's go back to Genesis where it all started from. If you look at the things that God talked about there, after God made man in his image and likeness, one of the first things that God did was give man work. Work said, I'm going to put you in this beautiful garden. I want you to work the garden because work is a gift. What we don't do is strive. What we don't do is we don't waste time just using any kind of work to almost like, numb our souls. No, you want to do work that's meaningful with your time, but just understand that work is not a curse. Work is actually a blessing. In fact, this may be a funny story. The other day I have 3 kids and I heard my kids talking. And one of them, my older one, was 11 years old. She will learning about money in a way that's age appropriate. She's learning about value. She's learning about investing and all those things. And she was telling our 6-year-old this. And she was like, oh, you need to learn how to invest because if you learn how to invest, then you don't have to work. And my 6-year-old is like, I don't know what you're like. I don't have to work. You're right. And there's greatness with investing, but then it led to a good conversation about what the point of work is and the kind of work that you actually want to do with your time eventually, right? So work is not a bad thing. But when I read those comments on Facebook ads or whatever, there is a fallacy that there is a level of money that you have at which you can now just sit down at the beach, do nothing ever, and just let yourself and let your soul die. Which, what's the point of that? Like, there's purposeful work, and that's a good thing. But the other part of it is when you're also, maybe you're starting out your journey, you're like, I cannot wait to make all of that so I can feel enough, so I can finally start to believe that I am enough. And when I am enough, then I'm going to be good and I'm going to be happy. And I will tell you that as someone that teaches people how to curate and create their rich life, the ability of being enough is available for you at any and every net worth. And you don't have to wait for you to have 7 figures in order to believe that you're enough. And you don't have to believe the fallacy that there is an amount of money that is going to make you start to believe that you're enough. But also you have to make sure you're not believing the lie that when you get to when you feel enough, then it means that you're never going to do. No, that's not true. Like, I work clinically. It's not because I absolutely need that income, but it's an honor and pleasure to do the work that I get to do. I get to serve my patients. You guys are not paying me directly for what I'm doing right now here on YouTube on the podcast, but it's an honor to do it because my goal in my life is to use the gifts, the things that God has blessed me with, and be a conduit to get that into other people so that they can also be conduits to other people and they can also be conduits to other people. Right? So even though I have enough, I am enough, I can still get to another level where I start to create a different challenge for myself, not so that I can finally think I'm enough, but so that I can just do the work of my life. And that work motivates me. That work inspires me. That's why I'm freaking recording this to y'all's on a Sunday, even though it's not going out on a Sunday. But you get my point. So on this episode today, I just want to address 4 things that I believe is going to be so helpful for you as you process this "are you not enoughness" that is so common in our culture, that is creating, burning us out, grinding us out, causing us to live a life that's subpar, making us absent in our relationships, not influencing our kids and families the way that we could, because we just don't think we are enough. And I want to be clear, this is not a matter of like perfectionism. These are things that even I have to remind myself about occasionally, because when I see myself going off track, this becomes now like my North Star, where I pull myself back in, do the work that I'm teaching you guys on myself as well, so that I can create the result that I want you guys to create, which is knowing that you are enough. Okay. So the first part is, it's kind of like a mistake we make, is we focus so much on lack. We focus on what is missing. We focus on what we can go fix. And what we don't understand is that lack brings in more lack. Lack begets more lack. What you focus on grows. The more you focus on an infinite lack, the more you will infinitely believe that you're lacking. Again, I want to make sure I'm clear that I'm not saying don't be more, don't do more, don't acquire more, don't grow. I'm all for that. I want abundance. That's why I don't spend so much time talking about chopping things off of your expenses. Like, people, like, that's not my MO, that those ways, right? But the bottom line is, I want you to start seeing that what you focus on will grow. And whether you believe you lack or you believe you have abundantly, they are both two sides of the same coin. It's kind of like when I talk about privilege, where it's like, oh, this person is privileged, blah, blah. Like, there is different levels of privilege. And the fact that you have internet and you can watch me tells me that you have privilege to an extent. So yes, there's going to be things that you may lack, but there's also things that you have. So most times when people are saying things or believing that they're not enough, it's because they're focusing only primarily on lack. Like there are things that I want to do more of. Like I want to serve more women physicians. I want to more women physicians to have liberation and freedom and grow their net worth and create their own rich life, right? So the people that I haven't served yet is missing. It's a lack. It's like emptiness. However, there are people that we've helped. We've helped hundreds of women physicians inside of the Money School. Across our platforms, through our email, our social media, we serve thousands of people every week. Like we're doing great work. So when I'm thinking about the fact that we want to impact like tens and tens of thousands of physicians, I also have to balance that with these are the great work that we're doing. In fact, what we do inside of the Money School, like we meet on Thursdays, we always start out with celebrating our wins. And why is that? It's not just so we can stroke our own ego. It's because I know that by default, we focus on lack. So it takes intentionality to focus on what we're doing so that we can see the amazingness. So like, for example, we recently celebrated people that were investing for the first time in their first syndications. We celebrated people that have decided to like launch their own business, their own side businesses, their own practice. We celebrated someone whose kid is starting to understand how to earn money and how to give value and how value is how you earn. We celebrated that. We celebrated someone that's like, apparently my disability insurance was not the right one for me for so many years. We celebrated that. We celebrated people like crossing their 7 figures financial net worth. We celebrate people that are like able to talk for the first time in their lives about what they're doing with money without shame. We celebrate all of that. And why do we? Because we're doing amazing work. Right? And that's on the business front. That's in the Money School Village, MSB Village front. But when I think and when I want you to start thinking about your own personal finance, are you focusing only on lack, or are you letting yourself see and celebrate the abundance of what you are creating? Because actually doing that is an act of kindness, and not doing that is not being fair. You can't just focus on lack and not focus on what you're doing that's working, right? And it's easier for you to do the next level job that you're meant to do when you recognize the fact that you are already killing it, right? It's easier for someone that believes like they're boss to do more boss level things than for someone that's like, I'm not a boss at all. I suck. I'm horrible, to do boss level things. So it's not just a practice for the sake of practice. It actually helps switch you from that place of scarcity to more of an abundance. And again, what you focus on grows. And so the more you celebrate, the more you will celebrate. I'm sure you see those people like, you're like, are you the only one that is winning? No, they're winning because they're celebrating their winnings. And you're not winning because you refuse to celebrate and see the fact that you are winning in some parts of your life. So that's number one. Okay. And then number two is this: being enough does not mean that you get to disobey or break out or be exempted from the law of principles that exist. And which principle am I talking about? There is a, Nigerian proverb. I know many cultures have their version of it, which is that if you want to go a little bit, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with others. And you have to be careful about the others you're talking about, the others that you're going with. Because if you go with people that are broken broke, they're only going to help you be broken broke. We change, evolve, we assimilate to those that we surround ourselves with, whether you like it or not. Like if you take, there's another Nigerian proverb. Y'all are like getting all the proverbs. There is a Nigerian proverb that says if a leaf stays longer with a soap, it starts to become soapy. So be very careful about who you're surrounding yourself with. But the principle is if you don't want to go far, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you have to go with a community of like-minded people that are going in the same direction, have similar goals, have similar purposes in this season of their life so that you can go far together. So being enough does not mean doing it by yourself. That is one of the reasons why, for me, it is so important that we learn how to communicate money, how to speak the lingo of money, how to be confident in ourselves when it comes to our ability to have conversations, have money, earn money, because that shows up in how we present ourselves. It shows up in our confidence, period. And why that's important is that if you're unable to speak, how are you going to ask or know what people are charging? When you don't know what people are charging, how are you going to make sure you're not being cheated? I literally have physicians that found out, one comes to mind, she was working in a department, salaried, not even RVU based. Her husband also works. They commute to work together, take the same amount of call. Everything is the same. And she's like, why does my paycheck look different than his? Right? Her paycheck, same job, same commute, taking call, same department, all that stuff, the same. Yet one person was earning more than the other. And it wasn't until she saw it, noticed, stopped, verbalized, not talk herself out of asking and having this conversation, was when she found out, like, oh, sorry, it was a mistake. And they fixed it and she got the money. Whether it's a mistake, whether it's bias, that's besides the point, right? Those microseconds. We can vent about that one later. But the bottom line is this, guys. If you don't learn how to have conversations, if you don't learn how to find the right community, which sometimes means dropping off of communities that maybe you're part of that's not in line with what you're trying to accomplish. Like when I think about when I started doing money, in my community of amazing friends that support me in so many ways, they were not doing money. They were not thinking about money. They still have the belief that money was maybe bad and talking about money is not good. And if you talk about money, you're greedy. And if you want to serve people, should not talk about money. Like, those baggage that we bring into our money stories, they were that way. So when I needed to grow, when I knew that I could not look away from the fact that money was a tool that liberates, I had to, at that point, kind of go alone, stand alone for a little bit. But then in order to move forward, I had to find people that believed and were living the truth that I wanted to evolve into. I could have set back and gone back and belonged where I was before, but I could have. And that meant that I would have had to stay the same and we would all be like, hanging out with our finances the way that they were. But because I was willing to go alone, stand alone, and then find the community to evolve into, that helped with my finances. And what that meant was I could now lead the people that I loved so much, that were not in those systems, now lead them so that now they can now evolve into money and create their own rich life. And I've seen that play out over the last 3 to 4 years. And even in our lives as a family, we continue to see that what we've decided that we don't want to live the overscheduled life. We want to live an uncommon life. We want to spend time with each other. We want to hang out. We want to teach our kids principles that matter. We want them to be able to not just think like life is all about like friend groupies, but be able to be by themselves and be happy and sad by themselves, but also now lean into community. But that's not something that we can teach them by spending 1 hour a week with them. It's going to require like us being in each other's world more. And so we've decided to live that uncommon life. And there are some people that may not choose to come with us with the uncommon life. It means saying no to some things that were good before, but not great now in the season of our lives that we want to grow into and live into. I hope that's making sense. So that principle is that being enough does not mean isolating yourself necessarily. It means that you may be willing to stand by yourself transiently, but you have to be willing to lean into, and find community so that you can go farther than you would by yourself. And again, that community may exist or it may not exist. That was my inspiration to start MoneyFitmd, the money school we have as is now, because it did not exist. It did not exist. It did not exist. The communities that existed were not diverse, nothing that looked like me. You did not look like you belonged. It was sterile. It was perfectionism. You were shamed. How come you don't know that? But now we have a community that is just amazing and diverse. I literally posted a picture on Instagram a couple of days ago of us from our in-person event that we did in May in Atlanta, Wealthy You Life 2024. And someone was like, oh my goodness, the diversity. I was like, I know, it's beautiful. It's amazing. This is what money should look like, right? So we have an amazing diverse room with people from different disciplines, medicine, surgery, derm, GI, optopath, like everything, non-clinical medicine, all of that stuff, right? And the reason why is because there's beauty in that diversity. And if you're a woman physician that needs something like that, just look in the comment, schedule a consultation with a member of our team. Let's see if we're the right fit for each other. And if we're not, we may be able to point you in the right direction. No salesy calls, none of that. We only want people that belong here. But if that's something that you're looking for, then definitely make sure you look in the comments and schedule a free call with a member of our team. But if you want to go farther, you have to go with people. You cannot go alone. You may stand alone transiently like we do as well as a family in certain seasons, but there's so much joy and growth in community. Okay. And then number 3 is this idea about self-sovereignty. And this is so important. I believe that the moment that we were born with so much value. I believe that there's nothing you can do that can make you a more valuable human as an identity. And because I believe that, there's nothing you can ask in terms of questions that can make you look less than in front of me. But also, there's nothing that I can ask that makes me inferior to you. So it's that idea of self-sovereignty. And when we miss out, when we lose sight of that, it not only brings us into the space of sadness and I'm not enough, but also what it does, it can negatively affect the relationships that we surround ourselves with. And relationships is a huge part of living your rich life. So let me give you an example. Maybe you're married and your husband, you're deferring every single thing to your husband. You believe that your husband is the one in charge of the money. You know, they're the money person. You're not the money person and you're fine with that as is. The downside to that is that I've seen so many women physicians go through divorce and they come out cheated on the other side because they did not let themselves mind their money business because they thought they were less in that financial part of the relationship. I've seen that in financial advisor relationships where you put them in a place of sovereignty or superiority. And part of this is because of how the culture of medicine is. You know, you're a resident, you're first year, second year, third year, and there's a tier when it comes to medicine, which is not a bad thing because I think it creates order. But sometimes we've made it seem like that superiority in experience in specific knowledge area means inferiority as a person. And that can actually be horrible because it means that you're showing up less. You're putting them in a position that they should not be put in, they should never have been placed in, and that can negatively affect your relationship. When I think about the work relationships that hasn't worked out well for me, for the most part, it's been because I had strayed away from this principle and put myself in a place of thinking that I was inferior. Okay. This is also, I've seen this in coaching experiences, even with people with their business coach, where they were trying to do things only because the coach told them to without making sure that it actually applied in their own world, right? Your coach may coach business coaches, but maybe they don't coach finances. Maybe they don't coach artists, right? There are going to be parts that will be applicable, but it's okay to use your brain a little bit and make sure that you're not trading off your own self-sovereignty. This occurs in relationships. I'm so thankful that I learned this a long time ago and it has helped me so much in my relationship. Like, I don't care how much anyone has or how little anybody has. I just think of all of us as being sovereign. And so for that reason, we can exchange ideas, we can exchange information without one person feeling like they are below the other person, because that really can make them not only not be in that in their power, but it makes it hard for them to give and it makes them hard to receive. I'll give another example that came to mind. One of our team members, Brittany, has a whole like huge experience of working with the homeless community. The homeless community is something that I care about. You may not know about this, but we have a socks line called Socksy Doc, which is personalized socks that are super comfortable and have empowering, badass words on them. They're geared towards women physicians. So if you have any physicians in your life that you want to gift, check out soxydoc.com. And one of the things that happens is like with SoxyDoc, we do give out a pair of socks for every couple of socks that we sell. That's something that I've always cared about. That's something that Brittany happens to share with us as an interest, and I just love that. And there are many organizations that focus on feeding the homeless, which is a great mission. I hate it when people go hungry, but it's also important to make sure that when you're going to serve people, you start from them. You learn from them how to best serve them. And because Brittany and her families had so much experience with just giving love, resources, and meeting needs of our homeless communities, I was talking to her a couple of weeks ago and I asked her about that because, part of what we're teaching our kids is how to see needs and meet the needs. And sometimes they would give money to people that may be asking for money at the corner of the streets. And, there's pros and cons to that. There's no perfect system. You're like, are they going to use it for a good need? Are they going to go use it for something negative? All that stuff. Like there's arguments on both sides of the coins, but I wanted to lean into Brittany's wisdom. And she said, that one thing she's noticed is when they've asked members of our homeless or unhoused community what their needs are, most times for many it's not food. Because again, not to speak for everybody, but for those that she's talked to, many of them are like, we know where to get food. There's food, we know where we can get food. But what they want more than anything is conversation, to be seen as humans. They actually like to help and meet needs. And I know there's safety concerns and all that, using wisdom. Um, but one of the things that they say is we just want to be seen. And sometimes when we're being positioned only to receive, it puts us in a position of disempowerment, right? So being on that same level, getting to their level and speaking to them like humans that they are, feeds their soul sometimes more than the food that you think is the most important thing that they need. So just that idea of sovereignty, that we all have something to give, we all have something amazing to offer, and sometimes it's their stories, sometimes it's their experience, sometimes it's what they're seeing. It's a different viewpoint of the city than you may be having. And again, please be safe. I'm not saying go out on the street and talk to people, but I'm just sharing this as an example of why this whole idea of like self sovereignty is so important, regardless of your social economics, regardless of how high or low your net worth, how high or low your debt is, right? So when you start to recognize that, you start to get yourself out of that I'm not enough mindset. And when you start to see yourself in the truth of who you are, it becomes so much easier. Like it's so much easier for me to be able to come on this podcast and share some of my wisdom that has changed my life and many other people that I know, because I know that it's valuable and it's going to help some people. It may not help everybody, but it will help some people. But if I thought I sucked, I have nothing valuable to give, I'm just, I don't know, I'm just a speck on the earth, you can see how that can start to make me get into this low frequency energy of not being enough. I'm going to end with this book that I always recommend. And it's funny because my team laughs about this. And it's a book that I like. It's called I Like Myself. It's a book that I truly, truly enjoy. I've one of the financial books. It's not a financial book. It's actually a kid's book, but I've recommended it more times than I can bear to count. And I like the book. It talks about, I like myself. I'm glad I'm me. There's no one else I'd rather be. I like my eyes, my ears, my nose. I like my fingers and my toes. And I want you to go get it. It's on Amazon. To support, I think it's Karen Bullman is the name of the author, to support her. But it's a book that just like fuels you in from the inside out so that you can be reminded of who you really are. And when we start to see that we are enough, we're going to actually spend less on things that we're using to try and fill up the pit that is, I'm not enough. We're actually going to ask ourselves better questions like, now that I know I'm enough, what do I actually want to do with this one life that I've been given? And we get to do amazing stuff. Now that I know that I'm enough, I can negotiate better, because it's okay if they say no. It's not because I'm less. It's because maybe the numbers don't work, or they don't appreciate the value that I give, or maybe their numbers is not working to support that increase that I'm asking for in this season right now, right? It makes it easier for you to talk to real estate investors and learn from people, because you know that you not knowing is not because you're less as a person, right? You're not necessarily having to start from a deficit. You're starting from point zero, and you get to just like create richness. So this has been so good. I hope this has been of value. This is stuff that has changed my life. And if you can take just one thing and impute it into your life, it would make a whole world of difference. So my question to you is, if you're watching on YouTube, I want you to type in the comment, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I want you to type that in the comment. And if you're watching this or listening on the podcast, then I want you to make sure you leave us a review as well. And don't forget to subscribe and follow, because that's how you make sure you don't miss any of the goodness that we have to offer you here. This has been so fun. I love you guys so much. It's always been a pleasure. Thank you for being a part of my life. I look forward to serving you. And make sure you read the show notes, because there's some important links over there for you to take advantage of. All right. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.